Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 53rd edition of ORC AGM, Annual General Meeting. We celebrated the 50th anniversary 3 years ago, prior to the COVID, and we are meeting again this year by Zoom. Hopefully will be the last time we meet by Zoom. Let me go quickly through the chairman report, and I will ask Zoran to share the report we made to World Sailing this year that is resuming our season. ORC is distributing certificates in 45 countries. In some of these countries, we have national rating offices. In 10 countries, the certificates are made and distributed through our central office. This report was done at the end of September, so the numbers are not matching the numbers that we showed to all of you during the EGM that are already up to the numbers of 2018, with the certificates number recovering from last year that was affected by COVID. We have also the number of boats increasing. You see double-digit percentage of increase, but of course this is related to the fact, again, that last year many races were not happening. The super yacht rating system under our rule is also functioning well and back with some races this year, as we were here during Offshore Class and Events Committee report. The cooperation with Super Yacht Racing Association and with the top sailors that are racing on these magnificent boats is very profitable and constructive all over the year. And next year we will have 8 events planned to be happening under this rule. I suggest to scroll down quickly. The championship we had this year are the main 3 championships we have since many years: the World Championship, European Championship, Sport Boat European. They were a success. The European were held in mid-May, just after the reopening of Italy to the COVID. They were in Naples and Capri, and they were in Tallinn in August with more than 100 boats presenting on the starting line. The results are showing the strength of our rule, because it's a mix-up in types, on different type of boats. Not a single type of boat is dominating, and this is, I think, a good result for our rule. Let's move down. You can see some picture of Tallinn here. The results in Class C were decided at the very last race, with 2 boats tied until the finish. In Capri, as we will hear also by the submission, there was an accident during the longer offshore race, the Tregolfi race, where a tugboat hit one of the competing boats, and that boat sank in less than 3 minutes. And the crew was all recovered through the safety equipment that they had on board, and they thanked our technical committee for having obliged them to install the life raft over the cockpit and not below the cockpit. Let's move on. Sorry? Scroll down. A lot of technical development has been going on. You will hear from our committees. And also we had a launch of the double-ended certificate in a tremendous number of certificates, more than 3,000. We also launched the ENOS Spinnaker certificate that is having some success. Even if I personally sailed one race with white sails only, I'm telling you that is a very, very painful downwind to sail against the others. We have been discussing this week a lot of submission coming from different nations, and the result of this discussion will be voted and presented to all of you. And we have been increasing also the quality of our products, because the measurement of part of our rule is something that is critical. Our staff is devoted to clean up the database of existing offset file. It is a huge work to be recovered from the past, because nowadays we have available machines with a precision and with a facility, with an easiness of use that is a lot different from the times where the scanning was a kind of mission impossible. Nowadays, everything is getting easier. In the multi-hull, for example, our chairman of the ITC produced himself a very nice tool where the displacement of these boats can be reached in an easy way, going on board on the forward and aft beam of the multi-hull every day to check whether the displacement is complying with what the certificate is telling us. For the events of next year, we will have our awards in Portocervo, the Europeans in Norway, so that we continue alternating south and north every year. And instead, we will try to launch, as we will hear from the Offshore Class and Events Committee, the new championship awarded by World Sailing to us, the double-handed World Championship. The categorization code in World Sailing was used at all our top events. And finally, you can see the plots of our statistics if you scroll down to the end, that are showing the recovery from the bad COVID year, almost at the levels of 2019. We don't know what will be the final number we will be reaching at the end of the year, but the numbers are already over 2018. And with this, I would move on to next item of the agenda, unless there is any question from the Congress. Thank you. I have also to thank again in front of the observer. I did it already in the AGM, in the closed meeting. All our staff, we reached more than 12 staff cooperating with us full-time or part-time. This crew is tremendous. They have to be complimented all, because it is very important for our rule not only to be transparent, but to be explained whenever is needed to all the sailors and owners that are using our rules. And they are doing a great job in that. So thank you again. I cannot propose an applause because we are on Zoom, but we did that here in Athens, where we are meeting now. We move on to the Treasurer report then. In the Treasurer report, something will be repeated. It was already done. But formally, as we are a British-based company, these agenda items needs to be there every year. Patrick, it's your time.
Thank you, Bruno. And I guess most of the people here on the Zoom has seen and heard this one, so we will probably have a fairly short version. If we could get the PDF from Zoran, I would be happy. Now that we've started with the last year, let's take it in that order. So what we did approve about 1 hour ago was the result for 2020, which was obviously a good result, because thinking about the revenues coming down because of the COVID situation, and also the good result is very much based on us not be able to do what we normally have been doing during the years. A big saving is the AGM, which normally is a very expensive experience for us, but also travel to different events. Of course, the travel with the different events, which is cost, would also bring more income, because then we would have been more races, more certificates, so that basic finance itself. We always end the year with quite a lot of debit. We have outstanding invoices to the M&As, but that is purely a technical thing, because the invoices are done for Q4 the last day of December. So when you close the books on that day, you will have a lot of money out to the customer, so to say, but obviously they have mostly been paid, so there is nothing to be worried about on that point. We also can show a little bit of how the costs are structured in the company. And obviously the absolutely big is the consultancy fees, which is where the real work is done. Then another big part is, of course, research, which is the thing which keeps us going. And those two goes together, because research is, of course, the technical research we do, but also a lot of the programming and the thing the staff and the consultants do are developing our products and our systems.
Sorry, Patrick, to interrupt you. I want you to notice, please, that in the year where the COVID was affecting most of the company, the management decided to invest and not to stop in research and development. You can see the figure there that compared to the previous year is even greater. And this is a strength of our company. We have the basis and the cash and the reserves to continue to invest.
Yep, absolutely correct. And guess we could jump up to the budget. And this is a little bit strange way of doing it, because the figures we are approving is so old, and we're already talking about the budget for 2022. But the budget for 2022 is very much built on facts from 21 and past history. So what we are looking into and hoping for, obviously, is a growth of the income, because we are going back to more normal times, more normal regattas. So we are planning to get more income, but it's a fairly conservative number, I think, so it should not be very difficult to reach for us. The costs are very similar like in the past, but here we have to add it is the AGM expenses, as will be a live AGM in Abu Dhabi together with World Sailing, if the situation makes it possible, of course. There will also be obviously more traveling for the ITC committee. They plan to have a few live meetings. Maybe Mancom will have one, and also traveling to different events, which we hope we can take part and support, which is a big part of what we need to do for our race organizers using our rule. I think that was the short version.
Thank you, Patrick.
Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
So that being the case, we propose as management to maintain the levies of our certificates for 1 more year fixed. And the policy, as we didn't suffer, as the treasurer has shown, economically in the past years, and we have been continuing to invest our money in research and development. We believe that we can offer to our constituency the levies to be the same as the past few years. Do we have a discussion on this? Anybody before voting for the levies proposed by the management? Okay, so let's put it on vote. Panayotis needs a moment. As you can see, double-ended certificate and non-spinnaker certificates are for free when there is already a regular certificate or ORC International Club that is requested by that vote. Yes, can you launch, please? Okay. 2022 levies to be maintained the same. This is a proposal of the management. Please vote. Okay, we have 1 abstention and the rest is voting in favor. Thank you all. Now we have procedurally to appoint our honorary treasurer, and the management propose to maintain Patrick because we believe that together with Pascal, who has been taking over the accounting from Vivian, the two of them have been doing a good job, and our consultant accounting firm in England is also having a good relationship with them. The software we are using allow us to have a constant information about our accounts, and we believe this procedure are finally working very well. So the management proposed the appointment of Patrick Lindquist as honorary treasurer of the ORC. We need to vote for that, please. Panayotis. Or I don't think we need a discussion, apart from the people who hates Patrick, but he's doing a good job. Please vote yes if you approve Patrick as honorary treasurer. Okay.
Thank you. I think I should be saying, but I'm not so sure, but I will try to do my best for at least in 1 year more.
Thank you, Patrick. Item number 4 of the agenda is about the membership of committees. We voted already for this new membership in the EGM. We will have few changes in the committee representation. The most important one being the new structure of the ITC. I would like Andy to talk about not the names that you will find online after these meetings, but about the concept that is new for the ITC. Please, Andy.
Thank you, Bruno. Over the years, the work of the ITC has got more and more complex in terms of the software writing, the construction of the force models, and its it's got increasingly difficult for the designers, the op designers and the sale designers to contribute to that discussion. And so when they did attend the ITC meetings, they would very often find themselves sat in discussions that didn't really interest them that much. We decided to restructure the ITC into two groups. One we would call the production group, which will do the hard yards of creating the force models, managing the VPP, and making sure that our increasingly sophisticated product keeps getting better, and then to provide oversight of that of the work, or to provide direction and oversight of the work that the ITC does. We would like to involve more designers, more people who actually spend time on the boats, and so we've set up what we loosely refer to as the designers group, and there the commitment to the ITC is not 2 or 3 weekends a year plus the time we spend at home, but they would be invited to attend perhaps two meetings a year, those held over Zoom or similar products, and that would last a couple of hours or so. And so hopefully by getting good communication between the production group and the oversight group, we can generate more lively discussion and better informed discussion. And I think with the reduced time commitment for the designers required to contribute to the ITC, that will encourage quite a few well-known designers to invest a little bit of their very valuable time. So I'm optimistic that this will give the process some new momentum.
Thank you, Andy. And I think we can move to the key part of our Congress, that is a review the work of our committees during the past week, and try to vote on their proposals. So again, I pass the word to our most important committee, the International Technical Committee. Please, Andy, can you report about your suggestions to the Congress?
We can. Am I sharing the screen or not? Sorry. Share screen, share. I forgot to press that button. Okay. So here we are, just to talk briefly about the work we've done, what one might call housekeeping. We've updated the certificate to made some updates to the certificate. We will now include the all-purpose handicap, which we feel is a better representation of all-round performance. We've added an improved cartoon, which you see on the left of the slide. This now includes the underwater part of the hull and a cross-section view, so you can see the shape and configuration of the asymmetric dagger boards. And we've introduced this for the multi-hull VPP, and we propose to introduce this view for the foiling boats in 2022. For the conventional monohulls rated under ORCI, the cartoon will remain as it is at present, with no underwater profile, with no underwater shape shown, to preserve the intellectual property of the designers. But we feel for the foiling boats, it's important for the competitors to be able to see what foils people are deploying, and also the rig information is more comprehensive now. It's able to reflect multiple hoist and tack points for the various headsails. In terms of the VPP and the LPP, we've reached a major milestone in that we now have a Mark II VPP code, which has sort of superseded the 100,000 lines of original Fortran code that started life in 1970, whenever. And we now have a modern piece of software, which still in the Fortran language, but this is much more easily maintainable for the staff. We've implemented Offset 2.0, which has been talked about for a while, which is the independent definition of the appendages. You can see in the cartoon that the appendages are defined by as many individual horizontal stripes as you need. And also in the LPP, in anticipation of the foiling and semi-foiling boats, the LPP is now capable of producing information at various displacements as the boat is lifted out of the water. So those have been quite well. Certainly, getting to the Mark II code has been a major step forward, and it gives us now more opportunity to do cleverer things, and also it will free up the time of the programmer because it will be quicker to update the code. In terms of VPP changes, again at the housekeeping level, we now have a situation where using the declared crew weight, the writing moment will be calculated on the crew weight. The sailing displacement will be calculated using the crew weight, and also the stability index for the boats will be calculated using the default crew weight. And for the double-handed boats, obviously that's just 2 people, and our analysis shows that the all-purpose handicap of the double-handed boats will still see them with a favorable handicap compared to the fully crewed versions of the boat. We've also finally in the VPP got rid of the need to have a very small jib to make the software run. So now we can measure cat rig yachts, which are just a mainsail set on a single mast or ketch rig versions. And also we have some code now to handicap upgrade the sail force coefficients when boats are using a whisker pole to leeward, and we've extended the calculation of the PIPA, the propeller drag information for hydro generators. So of themselves not big changes, but just an example of the day-to-day upgrading that needs to go on. Now we rather get to the meat of the work we've been doing this year. It's very many years since we devised the force coefficients for the asymmetric and for the asymmetric spinnakers set on a centerline pole, and the symmetric sails set on a spinnaker pole. And I think over time, definitely for sure, the design of the asymmetric spinnakers has improved. And so for the 2022 VPP, we've looked at speeding up the asymmetric spinnakers. And if we look at this plot, you'll see 2 or 3 or 4 times that every pale spot is the 1,600 boats in our test fleet, and the solid black line is the average. The left-hand axis is whether the new VPP makes the boat faster, which is boats going down the page in the green arrow direction, or boats that will be rated slower, the red direction going up the page. So any boat that falls to the bottom to the green side is essentially going to find life more challenging next year. This is the all-purpose handicap and we picked out a few typical boats. There's the FAR 30 little yellow points, X35 triangles, the Swan 42, which seems to attract some attention from time to time, and also the TP52. So the symmetrical sails are the pale blue cloud that sit at the top of the pile, and so they're advantaged relative to the asymmetric boats. So not big changes in APH, 2 or 3 tenths of a percent, but you have to start somewhere, and it's quite a careful job adjusting the force coefficients for these sails. Then we also had a submission relating to trying to better handicap the keels and find a better treatment for the keel bulbs, where one happens in the bottom stripe of the keel. And so this is a proposal we've been working on over the year with the support of John Victorin, one of our committed observers. And here again, it's the handicap changes a few tenths of percent. This is plotted against the keel area along the x-axis, and so we could see that there's benefits for the boats with small keels, some speeding up of the boats with larger keel areas, and again there's the Swan 42, the TP 52s down below the mean line. So we think that's an improvement. That's definitely an improvement in the physics, and we're happy that it doesn't provide too big a disruption of the handicap landscape. Now we come to something again that it hasn't been touched in. Well, hasn't been touched ever since the VPP was first written, and this is the atmospheric boundary layer, the wind gradient, call it what you will, and this is essentially the wind speed relative to the wind at 10 meters height, plotted against height. So on all the plots, this number is 1 at 10 meters, and currently the solid black squares are the wind gradient in the VPP. There's more information about wind gradients available now, so we were able to get an idea of whether this was a good representation of what the wind looks like over a race course or not. And our analysis suggests that actually the wind gradients could get less well mixed, i.e. the wind would get much slower nearer the water surface than our current VPP. In fact, it's very hard to find anywhere, excuse me, anywhere a wind gradient that has got a more full profile than the current VPP. So we experimented with changing the shape of the wind gradient, and we sort of, obviously it's one of those things where you can't just jump in and make a big change, but we felt there was the opportunity to make a modest change. So again, we're plotting here. This is ISP, the spinnaker hoist. Boats below the mean line are going to find life more difficult, and boats above it are going to find life a little bit easier. So this change helps the smaller boats, because basically they've got more of their sail down in this bit where the wind is blowing less hard. So the VPP slows them down. So again, it's a strong size effect, and again the TP52s and the Swan 42s, the landmark 43s, the larger boats are taking a small discernible hit relative to the smaller boats. So those are the three changes that we researched this year, and the first all effects test run was what we called option C, which is basically change the spinnaker coefficients, change the keel resistance coefficients, change the wind gradient. Again, we're looking here at the all-purpose handicap against spinnaker hoists, so big boats to the right, small boats to the left. This is the all-purpose delta, 0 here, 1% at top of the page, minus 1% at the bottom. And again, there's the X35s clustered here, so you can see the change in the VPP affects even a single class of boat quite a lot, even though, because they've got different rig dimensions, different sail plans. But the trend is again clear that the larger boats and the Swan 42s, the TP 52s are going to find life a little more challenging with this proposal. But I think all of that matches with what we observed from the fleets, that the small boats in a class find life much more difficult than the large boats in the class, and also we looked at this and we've rescored the races from last year's championships, and although this looks like it's quite a sizable change, it doesn't shuffle the pack in terms of the top 3 places at all in the championships. It might shift by 1 or 2, by a single place, or not change at all. So this is the proposal we would like to seek approval for, mindful that the wind gradient change you might see as something a bit, are we just twiddling the knobs? We ran what we called option D, which is the same as option C, but without the wind gradient effect. And again, it's helping the smaller boats. It's helping the symmetrical spinnaker boats. It's helping the small boat in terms of the small area keels. But our feeling is that the option C is it's a well-behaved change to the VPP, and the change to the assumed wind gradient actually means that it's closer to what most of the fleet are racing in most of the time from our research. The current wind gradient you would only see for 10 or 15% of your races, and more often than not it will be towards what we're proposing as the change with option C. So I don't know at what point you want to.
I think we can interrupt here and start voting on the proposed change of the VPP that are not coming from submissions, but are coming through the work during the year of the ITC. Then maybe you will talk about the residual resistance, as Alenji was asking. So I propose to vote. ITC is proposing to adopt option C and not option D, that is taking into account 3 effects: the spinnaker coefficient, the keel viscous drag, and the new wind gradient. As you can see, the effects are really small. We are not talking about 1% change, but less, much less. And the direction of this change is overall helping small boats against big boats, or making faster boats that are considered almost very favorite on our handicaps. So can you, Panayotis, put this vote on the screen, please? Is there any question for Andy? Sorry, I forgot to ask. Okay, here it is. So if you are in favor to upgrade our VPP with the proposal of the option C from the ITC, please vote yes. It's done.
We have 32 votes. Before was 34. Maybe someone was either not present or.
Let's close the vote anyway. What
Yeah.
is the result?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is approved.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Andy, you can move forward talking about the rest of your minutes, please.
Thank you. We've got some guys in the waiting room as well. So the great work of the residual resistance continues during the year, and we now have. Oh, is that my echo? Or? Okay, that's better. I think so. We've been working on the neural network for a long time, and it felt even for most of this year that we weren't making very much progress. We've run more than 1,000 individual boats in CFD. It's the most comprehensive database of hull resistance information on the planet, I have no doubt. The difficulty, as always, was to actually turn a massive database of fantastic information into something that would help us improve yacht handicapping. To support that effort, not only did we run the 1,500 hulls, which are designed by computer with systematic changes of shape, we've actually started to run some real boats. So we've got an HH42, a Landmark 43, a Class 40, a TP52, a Swan 45, and we've taken those boats and run them at exactly the same, and run them at exactly their polar speeds from the VPP. And we've said, how well does the resistance of these specific boats match with what the VPP would say the resistance was? And the summary is in this plot that's at the top in the middle of the page. If we're now looking in the top graph, we're looking at the residual resistance. That's just the wave making. So it's got nothing to do with the wetted area. It's the wave making resistance we're trying to predict. And this section here is the upwind cases, and this is essentially, there are two columns which are on both occasions the average difference between our real boats that we've run and the prediction that the VPP produces. And with the 2021 VPP, the standard deviation is 25%. When we run our best neural network model based on this year's work, that's down to 7%. The downwind average is, the improvement is less dramatic because the downwind case is somewhat easier to predict, but that's a substantial improvement. We're doing four times better than we were, and this error here between the VPP and the real CFD, it looks, you think, oh, how can you live with that great big error? But actually, at the upwind speeds, the residual resistance is quite a small proportion of the total. So we can also do exactly the same comparison between the total hull resistance and between the the specific boats and the VPP model. And again, both errors are reduced. And again, the new neural network model is doing well. So there's a real prospect with this approach that we can improve our resistance model by certainly upwind by a factor of 4. It's a much more sensitive model in terms of it takes in more parameters, but there is no question that when we try and introduce this improvement in the physics, it will cause some shuffling of the fleet. And so whilst we have some initial test runs from this proposed change, we didn't feel it was prudent to charge into it. So we're now in the situation whereby during the early months of 2022, we'll have some more test runs. We'll have some improved, try and improve the force models a bit more, and we'll be able to bring to the Congress some early results to see if we can find a manageable way of bringing better physics into the VPP without causing unnecessary disruption. So that's very encouraging from my point of view. We finally leveraging the generous investment of the ORC into something that looks like a step change. And I'd also just like to thank the staff who've worked away, making sure that we got this work done. It's added a level of complexity I don't think any of us anticipated at the outset. So that's a little bit of a story of Jam tomorrow. I hope, I don't know if I can take questions at the end or take them now, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to make questions? Especially Steve already made some question on this issue, or we move on with the submissions? I see no hand.
Raymond.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for Andy. When you say that you ran actual hulls, so the HH42, the Landmark 43, etc., what do you mean with running actual hulls? Do you run full-scale hulls, models, or is this all just CFD?
This is all CFD. So we use exactly the same CFD setup as we run the database of mathematically defined hulls that build the neural networks.
Okay, that's clear to me. Thank you.
Okay, Andy.
Yeah. So just quickly to point out in the minutes that there's discussion of the keel structural failures and some work that the ITC are taking on there with David Lyons to move that forward. The use of aluminium core in foiling yachts, the work on the performance database continues apace, and I'll just shift over to the submissions if my computer will allow. So this is submission Spain 1, which is the crew weight in sailing trim. They pointed out some inconsistencies in the way it was handled. Inconsistencies in the way it was handled last year, and we've fixed that. So we've responded in the the answer is in the ITC minutes. That was just to the ITC. Then there's the question Spain 2, which was about the measure the way different rating rules measure sail areas. I'll speak on behalf of the ITC and say that the way the VPP works, the force models are linked inextricably to the way we measure the sail areas. So there isn't much benefit for us to, well, there's no benefit for us to change that, and it would disturb the basis on which we calculate the sail forces. So that submission is not supported by the ITC. Sorry, do we want to?
Sorry, if I could just comment, this was also assigned to the measurement committee, so I don't think that we need to vote now. Maybe it's best to hear also opinion of the measurement committee and then.
Understood. So this is the submission Germany 1, which is talking about the shortcomings of the existing viscous resistance calculation on the keels, and that that has been addressed in the proposal C, which we voted on earlier. And then we have the submission from Management Committee 2, which is again trying to find ways of making the performance curve scoring system more accessible. Can we improve the language? I'll let most of the work with this has happened through Zoran and Mate. I don't know if you want to speak to it now, or you produced a document.
Yes, I mean the document was presented always there are other committees, and I think that we can also summarize this. But I would like to support, or you can just present the proposal from the ITC, which I believe that is later also supported by other committees. But I think that at this stage we can probably vote on the proposed change of the names to the polar curve scoring and implying wind to be renamed to the scoring wind. It doesn't maybe look just as a semantic or just as a different wording, but I think that this can be quite good improvement and make maybe rebranding, I would say, of the most accurate scoring method for ORC.
Can confirm that also the management committee and promotion development committee agreed about the proposed new names of these two products, that is polar curve scoring instead of performance curve scoring, and scoring wind instead of implied wind.
The submission from Poland 1 about trying to add more true wind speeds at the upper range. The ITC has faced these submissions quite often, and we don't feel there's any merit in adding winds at the higher end of the wind scale. It's very rare that the scoring wind comes out over 20 knots, and we feel that handicapping races in very strong winds is more than adequately dealt with having the 20 knot speed. So we weren't able to support that submission. Moving on to Russia 1, which is looking at symmetrical spinnakers with different half widths. I think this is back to the good old star cut that those of us who can remember that far back. In our response, when the performance of these sails has been evaluated in the VPP, the flattened reef terms are working on the spinnaker sail area, and so we think that the VPP is doing a good enough job for these sails, which are really quite niche. And even if we did an absolutely perfect job of handicapping these small flat spinnakers, you would see virtually no difference in the handicap polars. So we not able to support that submission. We could improve the physics, but it wouldn't improve the handicapping. There are two questions on the head sulfur. Again, this is Russia 2. This is more a question of what sales are you allowed on board to gather the credit for having a furling headsel, which is the only headsel you have to use. And we just need to clarify the rule text so that having permitted storm or heavy weather sails on board doesn't mean you lose the role of furling credit. So that essentially we support the submission. The Slovenian submission is on the same issue, where currently with a roller furling jib you don't get any help with different sail force coefficients if your LP is less than 110% of J, and that's just a step where you shift from one set of coefficients to another. We talked about it a long time and part of the reason for having that LP limit is that the more sail you furl, the worse your sail shape gets. So we didn't feel there was merit in just reducing the 110% down to 95%. But what we did take on, having discussed it in the ITC, we will put on the research agenda next year to try and find a way of linking this furling headsel credit to the reef and the flat parameters. And so that would mean that the VPP was telling us how big the sail was, and we might be able to drop out well, we would hope to drop out the fixed value of LP where the new coefficients are triggered. So we support in principle a submission. We don't think that a quick and simple adjustment to the limit was appropriate for 2022, and we'll do a better job in 2023. Again, it's submission USA 1, where we, for some reason, having gathered the fleet from the US, they have a different style of sailing at almost every opportunity. They prove to be exceptional, and it's again, in places like the Great Lakes, you can sail a race in very light winds. There's no tide, so you can sail races where the wind might blow at 4 knots all day, and you can get around the course without any park ups or the like. So that the question is, can we add a 4-knot true wind speed to the scoring polars? Again, the inclination of the ITC is not to add a lower wind speed at this stage, and a lot of the drive for this submission comes from the fact that the use of set wind bands is favoured at present in these fleets, and they'd like to. They see a situation where if you have a band that stops at, if it's 6 to 8 or 8 to 10, you have a very big step in the handicaps, because you're shifting from very light winds to stronger winds. So depending on where the race committee pitch the scoring wind, you can get quite different results. And so we're going to stick with our resistance to trying to do a 4-knot calculation, but we've established a dialogue with the people who raised the raise the submission. I think there's you know, in an ideal world, we would say, well, please use performance curve scoring, and then that will kind of take care of the 4-knot problem. But if not, we need to work out, we need to try and tune the scoring options that they have available. And we'd like to try and do that without actually adding more wind speeds. So we've agreed to take that on to the ITC agenda. Headsail set flying upwind. This is an issue with the VPP. There are certainly anecdotal evidence that boats on offshore races can sail upwind VMG with a correctly cut headsail set flying, but the VPP is very optimistic about when that can occur, because there's differences in sail cut. There's the fact you have to sheet it around the rigging. This problem is even more of an issue with the multi-hulls, where they have very wide shroud bases. So this is a VPP feature that needs to be addressed. And whilst there isn't a proposal on the table for a VPP change at this stage, we'd like to seek Congress's dispensation to try and fix this problem before we issue the 2022 VPP, if we can. I'm not sure how we're doing here. Then there's a VPP for planing boats, and we had a long discussion about this when we discussed the submissions at the ITC meeting. Planing is, you know, everybody seems to know when their boat starts to plane, but it's not entirely obvious from the boat resistance curve or from the polars. So I think any in my mind, there is no issue that we're not correctly predicting the resistance of the boats. We do move into the planing regime, and I think part of the problem is that we have two things going on. One is that people we're scoring in fixed wind bands, so some boats might not be going very fast in 14 knots of wind, but suddenly go very quickly in 16 knots of wind, and that's not because that's just in the physics of the boat. But then, and the other thing is that the general purpose handicap that's often used for these different wind bands is a terribly blunt instrument, and so I think that this issue it's partly a perception, but it's there in reality because of the way the races have scored. So again, as with some of the other submissions, we've agreed to start a dialogue, invest some time in communicating with the constituency that feel they have this issue. And then we have the estimated stability on club certificates. The arguments on this are well rehearsed. The ORC is not happy to put stability indices on boats that haven't got the stability index calculated from a vertical center of gravity that's got an inclining test associated with it and a good offset file, and so that precludes putting estimates onto club certificates where it may not be the right offset file and it has no inclining test, so that the submission is not supported. I don't know if the members of the management committee want to talk further about that.
No, Andy, we discussed in the management committee, and we agree with ITC that it is not wise to go in this direction. And
finally, a USA submission again, rated performance of unusual US boat types, which I think refers to the ULDB sleds and the possibility of some favored designs, for example, the Swan 42s, and at risk of repeating myself, the new residual resistance formulation will do a better job of predicting resistances, whether that's of the Swan 42 or of the sled. And we've again agreed to, we have established methods of trying to improve our correlation between real boats and the VPP predictions. That's one through the CFD on the specific boats that we talked about earlier. The other is the performance database, where we get data from well-navigated, well-calibrated, well-sailed boats, and then we can compare those observed performances with the VPP. And it's clear from talking to the people who wrote the submission that they're well capable of engaging with the ITC in doing boat-specific CFD, which would speak to the ULDB sleds, and also in terms of the finding more data for the performance database, which would speak not only to this submission, but also to the planing submission. So it's another case of potentially jam tomorrow, but I hope that the people who made the submission will feel that we've heard what they're saying and have a plan to respond. And that's the ITC's take on the submissions which were made to us.
Thank you, Andy. So my proposal is the following. We have submission Spain 1 and Germany 1 that were being taken care of by the new VPP proposal that we just voted. There are other submission, Poland 1, Russia 1, Russia 2, Slovenia 1, USA 1, USA 2, USA 3, USA 7, that are dealt only by ITC. So we can vote the package of this submission, and if we vote yes, we accept the recommendation of the ITC. Then we miss only 3 submissions after this vote, that is Spain 2, where also the measurement committee is involved, USA 5 with a management committee involved, and management committee 2. So let's start with the first package of Spain 1, Germany 1, Poland 1, Russia 1, Russia 2, Slovenia 1, USA 1, USA 2, USA 3, USA 7, that were only dealt by ITC and where we have a recommendation from the ITC. Some of the recommendations are telling us that the new VPP we just voted is taking care of the submission, like Spain 1 and Germany 1. Some instead that will need to wait for the next residually resistant model, like USA 2 and USA 3. So I propose to vote the recommendation of this package from the ITC. Can you do it, Panayotis? If we vote yes, we approve the recommendation of the ITC on Spain 1, Germany 1, Poland 1, Russia 1, Russia 2, Slovenia 1, USA 1, USA 2, USA 3, USA 7. Please vote. Sure. Okay, we can close the vote. Okay, 1 no. The recommendation of the ITC are approved. Now we have 3 missing submission. One is Spain 2, where the measurement committee had also to express himself. We just wait for the measurement committee, Zoran, or you want to vote it now?
Yes, I think that we can wait this. We can
Okay,
vote
we
on
can
that.
wait.
Yeah.
Then we are management committee 2, where ITC proposed the new wording instead of performance curve scoring, polar curve scoring, and instead of implied win scoring win. The management committee is supporting this proposal, as well as a promotion and development committee. So I think we can vote on this particular submission, management committee 2. If you say yes, you approve recommendation from the ITC, the management committee, and the promotion and development committee to change performance curve scoring to polar curve scoring, implied win to scoring win. Can we vote? Okay, if you vote yes, we approve the recommendation of ITC supported by MENCOM and promotion and development. How are you doing, Panayotis?
23 voted.
Okay. Okay, we can close the vote. Okay, unanimous. And now the last one is USA 5, about the stability index on the ORC Club certificate. The management committee is also supporting the recommendation of the ITC, that is not to allow for the stability index to be printed on a certificate when the stability of the boat is not measured. Can we vote on this particular recommendation, USA 5? If you vote yes, you accept the recommendation of the ITC and of the management committee to not accept a stability index printed when the stability is not measured. Okay, close it. Okay, this is more a fight on this one. We have a 76% yes, 80% no, and 6% abstain, but the recommendation of ITC and management committee are passed. Thank you, Andy. I don't know whether you want to add anything else, or we can move to the next.
No, move on. You've heard enough from me.
Any question from the Congress? No. Okay. Next one is Zoran, I think, with the measurement committee recommendation.
Actually, I have to report both measurement and rating officers.
Yes.
Which one is first on the agenda, to be sure? Yeah, rating officers, let's say it's a first on the agenda, so I can start with this one. I will try to focus on important thing and mostly on submissions that we have received and discussed. The first submission was Spain 4, was dealing with limit mark on bowsprit, and as we know from the last year, we have introduced multiple TPS and ISP measurements that are mostly used for the calculation of the minimum rated area of the head surface flying. And they basically have no effect on asymmetric spinnaker. However, since the rule was referring to these multiple measurements to be used both with headset flying and asymmetric spinnaker, we will just double check when before issuing the last VPP what is the effect of this minimum rated area, because any spinnaker with between the 75 and 85% has a double run. And then while this is clarified, we will either change the rule or simply delete the rule of all spinnaker from that sentence and basically put the in accordance rule with what VPP is doing. I don't think that we really need to vote exactly or approval, not approval this submission. It is more little bit of housekeeping in our rules. The same thing is for Germany too. There was basically we found that there was an omission in rule version was basically saying that we know that since last year a boat may have at the same time valid regular certificate and non-spinnaker and valid regular and double-handed, but this does not mean that there cannot be double-handed non-spinnaker certificate. So this will be simply resolved by correcting this error in the rule and then deleting the last sentence of rule 3.01.4. The one of the submissions that probably take the most of discussion within the race committee was submission Mencom 1, sorry, about ORC certificates in electronic format. I think that this has also been discussed with a few other committees, and I may at the moment, let's say, report here, and then we will see if we want to vote here or wait for the committee opinion of other committees. But basically, there is a general, I think, consensus that everyone is in agreement that while we are living now in digital world in the 21st century, we should have all the certificates available only in electronic format without really need to having printed copies. However, this is then put the question about the fact that we currently in the rule, we have the sentence that says the owner or his representative shall sign the statement on the certificate that is currently printed on the certificate. And then frankly, we found that in some part of the world, this has been followed, while in some other countries that are already using some kind of electronic type of certificate, this was not used. In any way, if this submission is accepted, this sentence will be removed. And basically also to be clear, as soon as all certificates become available online in digital format, they will not include anymore any owner's data, mostly to comply with the GDPR regulations. And on the end, basically the owner or boat representative who is entering the regatta is entering the boat, and he is coming with a certificate, and he is responsible according to the Racing Law 78.1 to have his boat complying with her certificate. And also I can show you just, for example, how we currently have. This is, for example, how the Greek fleet is currently available on our website. So this is basically the place where you can go and find always the latest valid certificate for each boat. And this will be also, because it is, but will be available for every other countries, normally for a regular double-handed and non-spinnaker certificate. The important is to say that this will require some changes in the database programming and some changes in the work from the rating officers that we were discussing quite a lot, and we believe that the way will simply be much easier and better also for the owners, because basically the certificate will be valid only when it's uploaded to the database. The second, that we can create the system that every rating officer shall enter the email address of the owner, and certificate will be sent by that to that email to the owner by our database. In that email, owner will get clear instructions that first of all he has to acknowledge that this certificate is correct, and if he has any comment, certificate will be issued as such. If he believes that anything is wrong, he can come back to his rating officer and correct any possible mistakes that can be. but it is important that also by using this system, we will know exactly in every number, in every moment, how many certificates we have issued during the year. We have it also currently now, although now the system is kind of hybrid, of fully electronic, because at the moment currently rating officers have the options to upload the certificates when they want, and now the certificate will be always uploaded when they are issued, and this will also help the race organizer to have one place where all the valid certificates can be found. I'm not sure if maybe we can defer voting on this if you want to hear, as I said, the opinions of other committees, but looking the minutes, I think that more or less we are on the same page. And then we had another management committee submission that was dealing with the compliance with the certificate, coming with some experience from the last World Championship. Basically, just to give short explanation, we always are checking the compliance and certificate. We always have two possible paths. One, if this is error of the omission of the measurer or rating officer, in which case the rules provide ways to correct this, and then whenever the error is found, it shall be certificate shall be withdrawn, a new certificate shall be issued, and this is covering any error. However, on the other side, we have so far there's 3 steps based on the difference in the GPH. If it is less than 0.1%, everything was okay. If it is between 0.1 and 0.25, no penalty, but new certificate was calculated. And up to now, the rule was saying that above 0.25, the boat is penalized with 50% scoring penalty and cannot continue racing. Then it was found that although we believe that that no compliance is always there, it's always a responsibility of the owner, but sometimes that no compliance can be found as probably as another error of the measurer or unknown reason, I would say. And in that case, may not be maybe fair just to stop both of competing in that race. So therefore, the proposal is to add another step that will be between 0.25 and 0.40. There will be scoring penalty, but certificate will be rerun, and not that certificate be used for the whole event. And if we find the boat that is more than 0.5%, then penalty is even harder, is DSQ, and boat she will not be eligible to race unless she's brought back to the compliance with the original certificate. And the couple of more submissions were the one about ORC Scorer and IMS editor in a mobile app. We said yes, maybe it's a nice wish, but it's frankly not top priority. However, the ORC staff has working on something that is not exactly the same, but it is similar to this idea. There is idea about an app for general event management. We probably can have more details about this project by the end of the year, so I cannot tell the more details, but in general, this submission is, I would say, not supported. Then there was a submission now about ORC Scorer, and basically it's just a request for some new feature in the software, and we believe that it's probably a good idea, but this will be reviewed in the development of the next version of the software. And then we had USA 4 additional scoring options on the certificates. So it was noted that additional national scoring options are already available, and any additional options just need to be requested with explanation how different ratings are calculated. So, however, we are repeating this since last year when this option was introduced. Any national scoring options are defined and should be documented and explained by the relevant national sailing federation, while ORC cannot be responsible for questions why my rating is like that on this national scoring option. And additionally, as we were saying before, there was a document presented explaining why even the ITC is strongly supporting the PCS, as we now just approved polar curve scoring and what are the advantages and what is the difference and what is the advantages or disadvantages of PCS used in comparison with the triple number or scoring with 4 and 5 wind ranges. So basically, answer to this submission is what is asked is already existing. And then the latest submission that was also caused quite lengthy discussion was submission to have multiple valid standard ORC certificates. This similar submission was presented and not supported also last year. In this year, there was no consensus in supporting the submission because we were mostly having the quite opposite position of some rating officers. I would say almost at the 50-50 of supporting and not supporting, but therefore not having clear consensus, submission could not be fully supported. But it was agreed that during 2020, different options to resolve this issue of overlap of deadlines to present certificates when entering different events will be investigated. Basically, the problem came out when in some countries you have to race on one race and then you want to race on another race with a different configuration, and at the same time the deadline is 1 month before an event, and then you cannot have at the same time 2 different certificates. However, during this meeting of the staff during the first day, we were working on some possible solution to this and maybe tested or proposed to those rating officers who were asking for it. We will see how it will be. So basically, this is summarizing our position, our committee position on these submissions. I don't know, Bruno, should we?
Yes, I think the idea I have is to vote for a package like we did for the ITC, that is easy and clear. The package is Spain 4, Germany 2, Russia 3, Russia 4, and the USA 4. And leave separate votes for Management Committee 1, Management Committee 3, and USA 6. If you agree.
Yes.
Okay. So any discussion?
Anyway, and I open for any question on this.
Maybe I can just add from the Race Management Committee. We have also talked about the MENCOM 1. We don't vote on this, but we talked on Russia 3 and 4, and we are in line with the Management Committee, with the Measurers Committee.
Rating Office Committee.
With the Rating Office Committee, and we are also in the same opinion with the USA 4 about the regional special scoring, which is already done. I think that could be explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Eki. So it means that in the package we are voting Spain 4, Germany 2, Russia 3, Russia 4, USA 4. 3 of these submissions were looked after by also Race Management Committee, and they are in agreement with the Rating Officer Committee. So shall we vote for the package of 5 submissions with the recommendation of the Rating Officer Committee that are joined to Race Management for 3 of the 5? It is Spain 4, Germany 2, Russia 3, Russia 4, and USA 4.
I have to select it. Yeah. Sorry, just a moment. We are approval of. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, if we vote yes, we support recommendation from the Rating Officer Committee on Spain 4, Germany 2, Russia 3, Russia 4, USA 4. Please vote.
Yeah, 21 now. No.
Thank you. Now I propose a single vote for each of the remaining three. That is Management Committee 1, that was analyzed by Rating Officer Committee and Race Management Committee. They are all in favor, also Management Committee, of course, who proposed it. They are all in favor to approve the submission. Is Management Committee 1, not 3, please. Can you scroll up?
Sorry, can you set up the Mancom 1? Is it approval?
May I just add from the...
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to talk before voting?
Mr. Chairman, may I just add the comment from the Risk Management Committee to this?
Yes.
We are very happy to hear that the virtual version is now coming. For us as race managers, it was very important that the responsibility of the owner is clear. So if a new certificate is issued, he should know what's going on, and he should be responsible. It should be clear that he's responsible for that. And we like very much to hear. I hope everybody understood what the plan is. That as soon as there is a changed or a new certificate, the owner gets an email saying what has happened and gives him the chance to control it and to make sure that it's the right version is on his desk. So we support the idea of the submission.
Thank you. Any other comment on this Management Committee 1? Are we ready to vote?
Okay.
Panayotis?
Yeah.
Okay. If we vote yes, we support recommendation on Management Committee 1 from Rating Officer Committee, Risk Management Committee, and of course, Management Committee. Please vote. Okay, not unanimous, but a large majority. Thank you. Now we move to Management Committee 3 to introduce another step between 0.25 or 0.4 of non-compliance. This was agreed also by Management Committee and Offshore Class and Events Committee. So please close the other vote. Who wants to speak on this? Are we ready to vote then? Okay, if you vote yes, you approve recommendation from Management Committee, Rating Officer Committee, and Offshore Class and Events Committee. Please vote.
We are missing some votes.
How many votes you have?
4. At least in the previous vote there were 33. Now we have 29. So please vote who didn't vote yet. But in any case, the majority is there is great majority. Okay.
Close the vote then, please. Okay. We have some abstention, but the majority, the large majority is in favor. Thank you. Then final submission for the Rating Officer Committee is USA 6, multiple valid standard ORC certificate. This submission was looked after also by other committees. I tell you immediately. Management Committee, and it was supported the same recommendation from Rating Officer Committee. Anybody who wants to talk on USA 6 before voting? Or are we ready to vote? If you vote yes, you approve recommendation on USA 6 from Management and Rating Officer Committee. Please vote. How are we doing?
I think we are now done.
You can close the vote.
Yes.
Okay. We have some no, but the majority is still in favor.
Yes.
Thank you. Zoran, are you done with the Rating Officer Committee?
Just a brief part of that we are always doing. We are presenting the latest development of ORC software. We are mostly communicating to the rating officer what the staff is doing, and we also mentioned that from the 2022 the multi-health certificates will be issued by the central rating office run by Simon Forbes, and who is joining ORC team, with perspective to have this issued by the national rating officer from 2023, and some updates will obviously be done in the ORC manager software as a type of part of usual housekeeping and development. This may include a little bit reorganization of the measurement inventory and also cleaning up of some obsolete items that are there for many years but never been used in the last year. So this is completing my report on the rating officers committee. And if any have any further question, if not, I would like.
Otherwise, you move on with the measurement committee.
Yes,
please.
So the measurement committee also had a couple of submissions. The first one we start with Spain 2, the one that was reported with by the ITC. We also believe that this is not so much question of measurement itself. We have to say that mostly through the UMS concept, the sale measurement itself has been unified between the ORC and IRC, but however, the way how each different rating system will calculate the sale area is not something that we can control. At least we cannot. Sorry. At least we can switch it off. As I said, at least we can do what we can do for ORC. We can try to talk and try to see, but what is the difference? On the other hand, in general, we don't think that it's the best idea to print the area on the measurement stamp simply because sometimes, for some reason, the formula for area calculation may be changed. And also, for example, for the main sale, you cannot know the area if you don't have P&D measurements. All the submission is talking about head to spinac. Basically, submission is, I would say, is noted but not supported in this because it's something that we cannot answer. We can only answer from outside. Then there was another submission about the sale measurement stamp, which, by the way, I have to admit that all the measurers and all the practices is always to put the sale measurement stamp at the head of the sale. But frankly, after looking and checking the rule, it is not written exactly in the rule that should be on the head. However, also the rule was actually asking to allow this sale measurement stamp to have it on sales that are furled, like code zeros and heads flying, where it's hard to find and to immediately open the head of the sale, to have this measurement step also at the close. And therefore, the IMS rule G7 will be updated addressing both things. So basically, we'll say that usually the sales shall be at the head, except there will be exception when the sale measurement stamp can be set at the close. So this submission is supported. There was the submission about measurement illustration. Basically, this couple of measurements, particularly SPL, was was slightly changed last year, and there was one illustration that maybe be misinterpreted. But in any way, all this is defined for illustration only. But nevertheless, when we will be working on the 2022 versions, we will probably do some cleanup and some updates on these illustrations to be as close as possible to the actual rules. Therefore, this is also supported and accepted. Then there was Spain 6 definition of the shaft not exposed. Basically, some clarification in the rule may be needed, but submission is caused by specific housing of the shaft that may require further investigation. Basically, again, in principle, this is supported, but we were asking the Spanish measurer to provide more details, particularly some pictures and photos to understand. And once we have it, then we can further act on this. And maybe even if it is something that can be considered as a kind of loophole or something, then maybe we can defer this to also to ITC. I have to say that I got some mails from Spanish, but still only with some explanation, and I would like to finally to get some pictures, because as you say, the picture is worth 1,000 words. It's much easier to understand. In any case, if while preparing the 2022 rule version, if there is need to have some clarification, this will certainly be done. And if it is just something that needs to be reported to the ITC, will be reported to the ITC. These are submissions that were assigned to the measurement committee. And I think that we may vote on these four in the package.
Okay, thank you, Zoran. Is there any question before voting the whole package, Spain 2, 3, 5, and 6, with the recommendation of the measurement committee? I see no questions. So if we vote yes, we approve the recommendation of measurement committee on Spain 2, 3, 5, and 6. Please vote.
I think we have.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay, and just to close my report, there we also had this usual thing that measurement practices and cases found during the year. As was also reported by the ITC, we are now able to rate the boats with our G, basically so-called cut rig configuration, but not just cut rig. We are also having something to do with the gaff rigs, or as you can see here, the quadrilateral sails. So basically, for the quadrilateral sails, sails set on the wishbone, we introduced a new set of measurements that will basically use the ERS definition of head, lav, foot, leach, and two diagonals. And out of all these measurements, the VPP will then calculate the area and center of effort height. These new measurements will be introduced in the rule as well as in the manager, and this will then now make the better assessment of sales like this, because so far basically we were kind of approximating the measurements to get the same area and center of effort with the triangular sales. I think this is quite good improvement, and it's fully follow the ERS definition, and also in the sense of UMS concept, we will submit also this and inform the IRC that we are introducing this, and I hope that they will accept the same principle of the measurement. Then we had another additional strange, I would say, sail or piece of sailcloth set around the boom that was similarly discussed last year, but simply we found that this is additional sailcloth that is, by the ERS definition, is a sail that may propel the boat, and therefore it's not allowed by our rules because it does not fit in any permitted types of sails and defined in ORC Rule 206.1. and then from the measurement technique and instruments that we are using, we get information from USA about the sensors for electronic inclinometers available at a low price. And so we are we will do some tests during the winter because first of all, we need to understand accuracy of such inclinometer, but also sensitivity to the temperature and humidity. I think that, and also we will need to test the software because we need to record zero angle for some times and show it during at least 4 measurements for 1 minute. Anyway, I believe that this will be quite interesting test, and if this device shows good results, then maybe recommended and approved for ORC inclinometer. The first step will be that this device will be performing in parallel with the JM sensor that is mostly used, and definitely can be used as a benchmark of the quality and the accuracy in these measurements. And as soon as we have some report, we will circulate this report within the measurement committee and maybe discuss it and maybe further confirm or not next year. And also this discussion led to find if the PD ranges that are currently defined in the rule are appropriate. And then we say that the rule is there for a quite long time. And on the end of the discussion, we didn't find any strong reason to have it changed. So for the moment, this rule will remain as such.
Thank you, Zoran. I think in our agenda, we are on the special regulation subcommittee of war sailing. I don't know whether Per Boimo is with us or not. If he is, I ask him to shortly report about the results of the committee.
I'm here, Bruno.
Oh.
So it's very short. It's not many submissions, no big issues actually. I can tell the submissions that were approved was 2 regarding forestay, one from Sail Canada, actually more or less clarifying that we are allowing mast without a forestay. That's the cat rigs we're talking about. And the second one was also about forestay, but that was the dimensions of the forestay, and the forestay actually could support the whole loads from the mast alone, not forestay and sail together, as a lot of boats are starting using. And the easy one, fire blankets on all the boats. It was lengthy discussions about replacing paper charts with electronic backups in all the categories, and this was approved for category 4, but not for category 3 to 0. But this will come up once more sooner or later again. And just a rewording for the heavy weather sails, just a clarifying, no change in the rule as is. And it will also, like ITC also highlighted in their minutes, it's the structural inspections of the keels will be used from January 1st, 2022. That's also in category 3, so that will actually affect the ORC championships, that all the boats shall have a structural review of the keels. So just be aware of that. It will raise the awareness of the keels, but if they're going to solve any problems, we don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Per. As you know, Per is an ORC representative inside the Special Regulation Subcommittee in war sailing. We thank him for his job. Now we move to another committee, if you don't have question for Per, that is Offshore Class and Events Committee. The Offshore Class and Events Committee, I want to point out, we had 2 meetings after the annual meeting last year, because we had to decide what to do with some event, and we did that with 2 meetings, one on 21st of December, the second one on January 16 on Zoom. This is one of the few advantages of the Zoom meeting, that committees can meet more often during the year, whether and when it is necessary to take a decision. And you will see at the end of this committee, we also decided to meet again in the first quarter of the next year. Let's look at the submission. Germany 3 is talking about the difficulty for the northern countries to have a Class A with a lot of participants. In general, this submission was not supported because it is felt by the majority of the committee that it is good for a strong rule like the ORC rule to have classes defined internationally and not changing limit within countries, so that the owners know exactly where they belong to and which class they belong to. But nevertheless, the study to understand whether the actual boundaries between classes are good enough and strong enough to split our existing fleet in 3 classes that are well divided will continue. So therefore, the decision is to continue the study, but not to change limits according to the event or the region where the event is taking place. For Management Committee 3, I think we already voted. For Netherlands 1, category in offshore race, this is following an incident during the ORC European Championship when a boat sank due to a collision with a tugboat during the night, and a life raft that was on top of the cockpit was available to the crew in less than 2 minutes when the boat sank and saved their life. So this is stressing the fact that the OSR category in offshore race should be maintained with the life raft on board. And the committee was supporting this submission. Netherlands 2, standardized heat racing system. We experimented in a very crowded C-class in Tallinn during our Worlds, a system of splitting the fleet in 2 and changing and reshuffling the fleet every day, even if in one day one of the 2 forecast races was not performed, and the following day you had to recover with 3 races. This system functioned pretty well, and the submission is suggesting to design in the Green Book an appendix where this method is described, and for this method to become a standard. And the committee is supporting this proposal. For Swedish 1, it is the same type of discussion for Germany 1. So it is not supported in general, but the intention to review and to study, especially with the new VPP, the boundaries between classes will be done by the staff and proposed to the committee in the early month of next year. Scoring of offshore races versus windward races, Sweden 2 and also Sweden 3 is talking about the same thing. It is about an ongoing discussion that is taking our time since many years. If the offshore races should have a bigger coefficient and or weight in our world and the European events. There is a strong push from northern countries, especially, to have a bigger coefficient for the offshore race. We started with a green book at the times of the Tom Cups where we had the coefficient 3 for the long distance race, then 2, then 1.5, then went to 1, then went to no discardable race, and now the proposal is to go back to some more than 1. So the staff has been tasked a study of a rescoring with a possible new coefficient for the offshore races to be produced in the first quarter of next year and to be discussed by this committee, as I said, with an extraordinary meeting at the beginning of next year. If you can scroll down a little bit. Okay, so that's all because Sweden 3 was withdrawn after that discussion. So with the exception of Management Committee 3, I believe, if you can scroll up, that was already voted. I think we can vote all the rest with the recommendation of the Offshore Class and Events Committee in one shot. But I am open to discuss if anybody would like to discuss the proposal of the Offshore Class and Events Committee. Maybe you're getting tired. So let's try to vote. If we vote yes, we approve all the recommendation of the Offshore Class and Events Committee, apart Management Committee 3 that was already voted. Please start voting. How is it going? Vote is closed, unanimous. The committee is thanking the Congress. Thank you. Let's move on with the minutes. We discussed and reported about the Super Yachts 2021 season and future plans for these yachts. The season had some event run in New Zealand at the beginning of the year, and we could follow this event only by remote, with a remote scoring. That is tough for us because we have a 12-hour difference, but it was feasible. And we experimented in New Zealand a new type of scoring, the PCS scoring for super yacht that was never applied before. And the sailors requested this type of scoring there. This year, this method that was also applied in the last event of this year in Ibiza is getting more traction and more popular. And also Antigua have been asking to use this PCS method. We are providing, as usual, with our team, dedicated team to super yacht of 3 staff members, the rating officer Gennaro Veta, the interface with the owners, captains with Alberto, and the technical support to this group with Alessandro Nazareth. This group has been working fine. The number of certificates is not so high and in the previous year because the events in Caribbean were canceled due to the COVID situation. But as you can see from the report, many other events happened and also this new regatta in Ibiza in October. For future events, if you can scroll down, 2022 championship were awarded last year with the awards will be going on in Porto Cervo between 22nd and the 30th of June. The Europeans will be held in Anco at the beginning of August with the 30 boats already entering or pre-registering in this event. And a decision made by the committee was to upgrade the double-handed Europeans assigned last year by this committee to Stockholm within the round Gotland race to upgrade this event to a World Championship. As a reminder of all of you, our submission to World Sailing was passed by Oceanic and Offshore Committee as well as the Council of World Sailing. Therefore, the committee also suggests to re-award to Greece, who's attempting this year to run a first double-ended European Championship, but they had to cancel the event due to the COVID restriction within the Aegean 600 regatta, to try and award again the possibility to Greece. Then, if we go down more, multi-hull events, this is the new rule. It has been experimented this year in 2 events, one in Porto Cervo and one in Palma, for boats that are really racing boats, but experimental certificates have been produced also for the Mokra fleet through the help of Simon Forbes. The initial work has been started and has been followed by Nicola Sironi, but also our ITC chairman, Andy Cloton, is supportive of this new group. A new VPP has been written, and with this VPP, we will also be able to rate through the new development, the flying boats, the America's type boat, also monohulls next year. Next year, all certificates will be produced centrally by our central office. As soon as the rule will consolidate, we will try to set up a system like we do with ORC International and ORC Club. For future event of 2023, the committee received an interest to host the 2023 ORC World Championship at Kiel Yacht Club, and to have the European Championship ORC Europeans in Royal Malta, by Royal Malta Yacht Club. We also had got last year an interest from Barcelona to have the double-ended Europeans in 2023 in Barcelona, and the committees will ask to the Congress to have Barcelona confirmed to 2023 with an upgrade as we did with Stockholm to a double-handed World Championship. The committee instead will look after other bids for 2023 ORC double-ended European Championships and for ORC European Sport Boat Championship. During the committee, Steve Benjamin told us that New York Yacht Club might be interested in hosting 2024 ORC World Championship in Newport after the cancellation we had in 2020 due to the COVID. And then organization of the committee, I think I am done with my report, and I leave, and I'm open to any question from the Congress. We already vote. Okay. Okay, so now if there is no question, we need to vote on the calendar and location of events as proposed by the Offshore Class and Events Committee. If you approve this recommendation, the event location and timing is approved. Please vote. How are we doing? Okay, thank you, unanimous. And then I pass the microphone to Eki for the Race Management Committee.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for voting for Kiel, I have to say first. We are happy to do it again in 2023. Yes, the Race Management Committee has had its meeting already a couple of days ago. All our submission has been voted on already. So this part of our committee we can close already. But I may report on our race management guideline, which was published 2 years ago. This guidebook will be reviewed in short time, but with the help of the ORC staff. And I would like to invite everybody to look through this publication and to come along with contribution ideas of change or amendment that would be very much welcome. We also want to renew the idea to make online race manager seminars. The first version will be dedicated for the area of the Baltic. And Johann Tufstedt and me, we have taken responsibility to get it started. We want to reach better contact with the race managers and exchange experience on this way. So I'm looking forward and hope we can report about our experience with this kind of new seminar the next year. That's all for this year.
Thank you, Eki. Anybody has questions for Eki? Anybody has any question for Eki? Okay, so we don't need to vote. Let's move to the next committee. Where is the agenda? Dobbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody hear me okay? Yes, thank you. Our Promotion and Development Committee first wants to thank all of our members who have provided inspiration and ideas for the success of ORC this year and pointed toward the future. We are very pleased to take on Piret Silmistu and Mr. Andriadis, George's son, will be also joining us, and he's got fantastic ideas. So we very much look forward into the future with our new members who will be joining us. As usual, we didn't get many submissions. However, we did. We're assigned the ManCom 1 submission based on the terminology that is proposed for performance, what has been called performance curve scoring. In our view, it's important as let's say a reboot or a rebranding of what is widely acknowledged as ORC's most accurate scoring method. This rebranding came to our attention as a possible tool to be able to get more widespread use and acceptance of this method, particularly amongst our new fleet. So we look forward to using that in our promotional tools, and we agreed with the other committees on that those rebranded terms. We had, because of some travel restrictions, we didn't have a whole lot of activity in the first part of the year, but that actually picked up quite a bit in the middle and I think even towards the end of the year with the usual activities of measurement, either measurement seminars or promotional seminars held in local fleets. As you saw from the statistics earlier, the huge spike in growth for the organization this year was in the US, where I live, and it was a lot of activity. We tripled the number of certificates to over 1,000 in the US, and it was a lot of new users. So this was a good time to test our skills at educating and helping those who are newcomers. But we haven't forgotten everybody else. And as the statistics show, the growth in other areas are ongoing. One thing that we, with Pirette's help and also my vice chair, Thomas Nielsen, we're going to we have been doing it. Pirette's been working with us as our social media manager, but we're going to shift into a higher gear in using all the possible tools of social media. And I won't, there's a lot to it, and we don't have the time to discuss everything, but the statistics in the minutes show that we've had steady growth in the most common platforms, Facebook and Instagram, for example. And I'm looking forward to cooperating more readily with Thomas and Pirette on how to make that grow even exponentially more. So we've developed some new strategies with that. We're also very pleased to see new ORC events come into our portfolio, particularly the double-handed World Championships. We think these are great opportunities for reaching out and doing more than just providing certificates for boats and double-handed, but actually inspiring people to come out and race in a championship setting. The other thing we are very much looking forward to from our technical colleagues is the ability to have multi-hull certificates. Certainly, there are a lot of constituencies in our world that have multi-hull fleets existing and future ones that will, I think, be well served in having our tools applied to those kinds of boats. In the meantime, with MOCRA as a good start, we'll be paying attention to that and using that in some of our publicity, as we're hopeful that this rule system will get rolled out slowly in 2022. There's certainly been a lot of demand from race organizers for this. And we also have decided to up our game a little bit more in providing some interesting and original content. We've had this relationship with Seahorse Magazine for several years now, and we want to try to maximize that a little more than it's been handled thus far. Andy, in particular, I want to thank for helping me out in writing these columns every other month that appear in the magazine. They get posted on our website. They get distributed through our channels, but I think we're going to do a little bit better job with that. And in fact, just talking after our meeting here, and one of the benefits of being here in the same place with our colleagues is we can pull each other aside and say, hey, I have this idea. So just in the last 24 hours, Pirette and Thomas and myself have developed some, I think, clever ideas for new content going forward from our channels, both all our channels, website, newsletters, media outreach, and of course the social channels. So stay tuned, you all, because I think everybody listening is probably on our mailing list or probably connected to us some way. So we look forward to peppering you with some new ideas and inspiring stories from ORC. And also, lastly, I want to thank good cooperation with our technical team, in particular Panagiotis and Zoran, because things like the new certificate layout this year, we very much support switching over to that digital format. And moving forward, we think that this is definitely the way to go in the future. A lot of people are accustomed to and comfortable with PDF, but we're in lockstep agreement with our technicians that there's a lot more flexibility in digital formats. And we think even some, because of this flexibility, some possible promotional opportunities for the future. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman, and I'm open to any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Dobbs. Do we have questions for the Promotion and Development Committee? We don't need to vote because the submission were already voted. Okay, let's move on then, before you fall asleep. Okay, is the Management Committee. I also stress the point that we had July and September minutes always by Zoom after our November meetings. We have been talking about the submission of World Sailing and our report to World Sailing that is the one that we showed at the beginning of this Congress. We have been talking about the postponement of the combined event. We have been talking about the submission that is, we already voted on all the submissions. So we don't need to vote anymore. We reviewed interviewing committee chairman, all the new people to be added to our committees, and Andy talked already extensively about the new format of the ITC. We have the new Congress members that we introduced at the beginning of this Congress. We talked about finances. Luckily, our treasurer reported that we are very safe and on a good path, and we can continue to invest our money in research and development. With marketing, several ideas came out also about how to improve sale of services products, and this will be explored in the future. Free statistics, we talked already about this, and about new possible relationship with the new countries or old countries that are reorganizing their rating office, like Brazil, who has Rodrigo Castro will take over the central office, Nicola, who is now producing certificate for Brazil. And there is also some people who is resigning, who is substituted, like in Estonia, in Poland, and so on. USA situation is the most difficult one because the USA rating office had been empty since 1st of June, and we had to make a deal with US Sailing to produce with our staff their certificates, and this deal will be ending at the end of December with a possible new staff in the US Sailing rating office being Jim Titters, that is very well known, a very good technical guy, but the contract with him is not clear, and we are taking care that no conflict of interest will be possible, as Jim was the initiator and the developer of our rule, one of our competition. About new fleets, we are investigating. I've been called by Dubai and Hong Kong. We will, of course, not only maintain good relationship and seminar, as you see, with existing strong countries. We will try, if COVID restriction will be over, to insert our seeds in new fleets because people is asking for that. About our publication and time schedule, our staff is very efficient as the other years, and I am pretty confident that we will be able to publish our new rule and publication by the beginning of the year, as it happened in the last couple of years. We heard about ITC for UMS. There was not much development, mostly was from our side, and Zoran reported also about the new quadrilateral sale. For the championship, we already reported, and the super yacht multi-hull we already reported. We also, in this meeting, we have an important task to do as management, that is to interview committee chairs and also our staff. We are up to 12 people now that I have to thank in front of the Congress because they do a marvelous job. They are really living for ORC. Of course, they're making a lot of money. They're laughing at me, I don't know why. But they are really fully dedicated to our company. It is amazing to see how a company who doesn't have a technical office where the people can meet is able to create tasks, assignment, and group of works that are delivering what the Congress and our committees and our sailors are asking for. It is amazing how this rule, since I began to join ORC, has growth, and how the services that we are providing have been growing. I only want to add another small issue that is not minuted. We dedicated one of the most experienced guy in ORC staff, Nicola Sironi, to special project. I already said that he was starting the multi-hull project. And now as a management committee, we are pushing Nicola to deliver something new that is a new project with the classic boats. It is a very complicated world where we have different associations, different rules like CIM. And I think there is a lot of room for a technical and scientific rule like the one we have. So Nicola is tasked to deliver this bridge toward this new possibility, and I hope he will be doing that during next year. And again, I compliment all the staff and all the committees and congressmen for the wonderful work they did.
If I may.
Microphone, you have the micro. Please, a hand raise also, Per. Please, Per.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, okay. Here's
Okay.
paper.
Yes, Bruno, I agree with all what you have said in your last words. I've been in the ORC, in the management committee, since a long time. I think we enter in the management more or less at the same time. And I am proud to see, I have the privilege to be under your leadership and see how ORC has been transformed from a company who was practically dying to what we have now. This would have not happened without your leadership. It's 100% or at least 99% due to your dedication, your clever leadership, and your friendship. This is a result of your job in that many years. For that, I would like to thank you very much.
Pepe, already the congressmen are sleeping now. They need I need an handkerchief, and we are terminating this meeting in a terrible way. So who else? Thank you anyway for your nice words. I will buy you dinner.
That's what, okay, I'd like to succeed.
Okay, anything else? Okay, any other, what do we have? Calendar for 2022. as I said at the beginning, we will try to join World Sailing in Abu Dhabi, if affordable by the COVID, if affordable by the prices. Unfortunately, I am told by our two scouts, beautiful ladies, Pascale and Vivian, that the hotel the World Sailing chose is a terrible hotel. So we will see what to do. And of course, I already said that we are trying to set the next year live meetings, at least one for the ITC and the management committee and the staff. I am open to hear from you if you have any other business to discuss, or instead if we can conclude our 53rd AGM for ORC. So thank you again. Thank you
Bruno.
to all of you for
Thank you
your
a lot,
patience.
Bruno. Thank you a lot.
Luke,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I cannot buy the dinner to all of you then.
Thank you very much.
Buy me breakfast.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Let's see each other live next year, please.
Hope
Ciao.
so.
Hopefully so.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Buy me breakfast,
Good night.
by the way.
Maria, give you a table. Thank you. And Nicole,